The haunting silence of the Outback. Decades ago, a young researcher, Thomas, was assigned to a remote indigenous settlement in the vast and haunting Australian outback. His task was to gather stories and folklore from the elders of the community. Though relatively new to the wilderness, Thomas quickly earned the trust of the local men, who introduced him to their deep-rooted traditions and guided him across the ancient landscape. After a year, two of the senior men, Munga and Wari, proposed an extraordinary journey, a 2-day trek through the arid desert, to meet a revered elder and visit sacred sites few had seen in years. Thomas, always eager to learn, agreed, unaware that this journey would haunt him for the rest of his life. From the start, the desert seemed to stir with an unseen presence. The first day, as they followed a mob of kangaroos, the creatures abruptly veered off the trail and vanished into thin air. Later, while approaching a rocky slope, they spotted the sacred site they sought, but 3 times it faded into the shimmering heat, disappearing as if it had never been there. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they made camp near a low, rounded hill. Thomas sensed his companions' unease. Though they said little, their faces betrayed discomfort. As the night settled in, Munga quietly explained that a dreaming camp lay just beyond the hill. In their lore, such places held tremendous power, where the boundaries between worlds blurred. The beings of the dreaming were not malevolent, but unpredictable, their motives beyond human understanding. Around the fire, they listened to the mournful howls of dingoes drifting from the other side of the hill. A cold wind whipped through the camp, intensifying the oppressive feeling hanging in the air. The night was so frigid that Thomas pulled his sleeping bag tight, willing himself to sleep. Hours later, Thomas awoke to an eerie silence. The wind had died, and the night was unnervingly still. Looking up, he saw clouds scudding across the sky, casting fleeting shadows over the land. He decided to walk away from the camp for some privacy, stepping carefully to avoid waking his companions. But as he stood alone in the vast, silent desert, a chill clawed at his spine. Suddenly, a deep, primal terror seized him. His heart raced and instinct screamed at him to run. He stumbled back to camp, the terror lingering even as he lay shivering in his sleeping bag, unwilling to acknowledge what he'd felt. At dawn, they quickly broke camp, each man eager to leave. Thomas tried to dismiss the experience as a trick of his imagination, and he never mentioned it, even after returning to the settlement years later. But on a nostalgic visit to the settlement, the subject of that ill-fated trip arose unexpectedly. Munga and Wari looked uncomfortable as the memories resurfaced. "That was a bad trip," Munga said solemnly. "Many strange things happened." Thomas laughed uneasily. "Like the kangaroos?" he asked. Munga nodded, his face serious. "And that night, by the hill." "What about it?" Thomas asked, feeling a twinge of the same dread from that night. After a pause, Wari explained. "We woke up in the night too," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "And we saw you, out there, beyond the firelight. But I was looking for a place." "No." Wari's eyes held a haunted look. "We saw you up on the hill, speaking with 2 figures. They were dreaming men. They were watching us, and you were with them." Thomas felt his mouth go dry. "And then?" Munga took a breath, his voice trembling. "Then we pulled our blankets over our heads and waited for dawn.